there. Okay, a little background about myself. Born in Cairo, Egypt, Talmud Muvik of Rabbi Miller since I was 12. Since he came and moved to Flatbush, he moved right on next to my block. And I was a bacher in the Mir Yeshiva, and we became very close. When I was in medical school, I'm trained as a foot surgeon. I moved in, and my roommate started the first Beit Chabad for the Sephardic community in 1979. And we used to go to see the Rabbi all the time. It was me and him and a person by the name of Meir Abu Chatzera. He used to take us all the time to see the Rabbi. I was very close to Lubavitch for many, many years. The Masada Kedushin of my wedding was Rabbi Abraham Hecht, who was the chief rabbi of the Syrian community for many years. And I'm very close to Tzivus Hashem. Rechmei Ben Yaminson is my best friend. I'm always there. I MC the dinner for them all the time. So I lived in New York many years. I practiced, and then I moved to Miami. Lived in Miami 7 years. I did kiruv a lot. I was a surgeon at night. I used to teach University of Miami for Eshat Torah and Sameach. Had thousands of people come to my house for Shabbat. Was mekar of many. Moved back because of the Tasha Rebbe. The Tasha Rebbe said, "You're done. Come back to New York. You have to deal now with your own children to get shidduchim for them." So Baruch Hashem, I came back. My children go to a Mossad called Atere Torah, which is a great Mossad. Racham Yosef Raful, probably the most chashuv Sephardic Mossad in the world. And I have two sons who are learning there in Kollel. And along the way, I started helping a lot of people get married. And today, I'm probably one of the biggest at it in the world. And I teach all over the world. I love doing it. It was something I got pleasure from. I'm on Torah anytime. I have like 600 shurim there. And also helped start a very chashuv kollel in the Syrian community, which produced the newest generation of Dayanim. And so Reb Chaim and I got close. I run the campaign for Landau Shul in Elul and Tishrei. I speak 30 times a day. I think he heard me and he was impressed. So I'm going to give a little talk tonight. Nothing to do with shidduchim, but what I felt are some interesting points to pull out of this week's parasha. I'll go very slow. So we know in this week's parasha, Parshas told us that Yitzchak and Rivka finally have their two children. That is Esav and Yaakov. And they're all the same until age 13. Once Bar Mitzvah hits, one goes to become a tzaddik, Yoshev Alim. This is Yaakov Avinu. And Esav decides that he wants to go into Avodah Zarah and all types of bad things. Commenting on the words, V'Rivka oheves es Yaakov, Reb Shamshel Raphael Hirsch says this. Esav saw that his brother is getting special treatment from the mother, and he wasn't happy about that. And what he tells us is that all children need attention. Babies are born with mouths that they cry louder than their size because they need attention. And Esav was looking for attention. So the Mefarshim tell us, whose clothes did he wear when he went out to hunt? Does anyone know? Come on. Which clothes did I... Esav begadim she'esav lavash shuolach. Nimrod. What's the shortish of Nimrod? Mered. What is mered? To rebel. He says, look world, I'm somebody. Treat me like someone special. He was looking for attention. And this is what we did. When a child doesn't get attention, he acts out. I got to share it with you. And an absolutely amazing story. You've heard of Aryeh Levin, right? He was the shver of Rabbi Yosef Shalom Eliashiv. Right. He had a yeshiva. And his son was a Rebbe. And it was a little cold. And his son Reb Chaim is watching the children play they have like a 15-minute recess. Hefsek, 15 dakot. So he says to his son Reb Chaim, what do you see over there? He says, I see David standing next to the door with his hands in his pockets. I see Moshe running around like a meshugana. I see Yankel staring at the sky. The father looks at his son, he says, you don't know how to look at children. Rabbi Levin says to him, David has his hands in his pockets because he's cold, because he can't afford a sweater, because his parents don't have the money to buy him a sweater. Moshe is acting out because his Rebbe just hit him and he's suffering. Yankel is staring at the sky because his mother has cancer and he has to get up at 10 years old to make sandwiches for himself and all his brothers and sisters. We have to know how to understand and look at a child. That's important. Rabbi Abishit says something fascinating. Yitzchak Avinu mastered the ability of being able to love his children with all his senses, b'kol regishot, all the senses. You know, what are the 5 senses, right? Seeing, to see, taste, smell, listen, and feel. He couldn't see, but watch. Yitzchak Avinu mastered. Yaakov Avinu says to his mother, when she tells him to go in and get the bracha, he's going to feel me. What was going on? Yaakov Avinu knew that his father gave his children warm hugs every day. He hugs me every day. He hugs Esav every day. He's going to know from the feel. And when it comes to listening, he says, Hakol Kol Yaakov. He bonded with his children with the ears. And when it came to smelling, he says to him, you smell like a hunter. He used all his senses. And when it came to tasting, he says, serve me from what you bought from me. I want to taste the venison, the deer, the tzivi that you bought for me. So Yitzchak was a genius at loving his children in what we call today multisensory. Today, that's the buzzword. You go into a school, you got to have multisensory. You have to bond with the children that way. And that's our lesson here. We have to bond with our children, whether it's a Rebbe or whether it's a parent. The Sfas Emes was a great Hasidic Rebbe. His father died when he was 8 years old, and he was raised by the Chidushi Harim, his grandfather. At 22 years old, he was elected to be the leader of Ger. Very young. One person had a problem with that. Face 22-year-old, you're going to tell us what to do? Who are you to be our leader at 22? He had a problem, guy. So he gives him says, let me tell you a story. A group of mountain climbers prepared to climb the mountain, like Mount Everest, the big mountain. For weeks they were preparing and getting their food and getting all types of equipment. And they hired people, madrichim, la Rosh Hahar. It took them weeks along the way. They lost a few people. They died as they got up to the summit. When they get to the summit, the Sfas Emes is telling them the story. They see a young guy playing, enjoying himself. And they're like in shock. They're starving, they're hungry, they're tired. So what are you doing here? He tells them something fascinating. He says, the young guy tells all the backpackers, he says to the mountain climbers, you're just visiting. I was born here. This is my place. That's how we have to act with children. You're a Yid. Be proud of it. You're on top of the mountain. If they feel like they're on top of the mountain and they feel the love, there's never going to be an issue. Rav Moshe Feinstein used to speak about the beginning of the 20th century when Yidden came here. And you go to work, it's Erev Shabbos, the boss looks at you and he says, you better be here tomorrow or don't come back Monday. And how many Jews lost their jobs? How many Jews? Last week, actually, I was walking to shul. I davened on Shabbos afternoon by Rabbi Yisrael Reisman. It's a block away. And my neighbor is telling me the story, Hass. His father had the same thing. He was telling me the day when they were living in the Lower East Side, what their life was like on the Lower East Side. Because my father always, on Friday, went to work. And then they told him, you don't come tomorrow, don't come back Monday. Don't come back. So what happened? One day he's crying. He wasn't to shul. He runs into Rosh Hashanah 5 Mandelovitz. He started the whole yeshiva system in America. He cried to him. He told him, no problem, you're going to be our cook. And he became the cook for Torah Vadas the rest of his life. No problem with Parnasa. But here's the issue. The Rabbi Moshe Feinstein used to say, there was a poisonous statement that destroyed a whole generation of Yidden. You're going to like my Yiddish. Ze schwer zu sein a Yid. It's hard to be a Jew. This is what the child would hear when the father came home on Friday. And what would happen? The child didn't have any more interest in it. You know what? If it's hard for you, why do I need this? They didn't share the beauty of Shabbos. They didn't explain to them that Shabbos is the bracha of Parnasa. They didn't show them the enjoyment and simcha from Shabbos. As a result, they came to hate it. So we lost hundreds of thousands of Yidden because of this statement. It's hard to be a Jew. When it's not hard. All it took was a little emunah and a little bitachon. Let's move on. Today I'm going to give you a tour of the Olam HaLitai and the Olam HaChasidim. There's a big yeshiva, if you heard of it, Neri Stroud, Baltimore. You got to hear this story. Rabbi Yitzchak Ruderman, who was a Rosh Yeshiva, says the following. He asked the question, it's coming up in a few weeks. When he sees Esav, he says, I lived with Lavan, I kept all the mitzvahs, and I didn't learn from his wicked ways. The famous story of Rashi. Rashi asks the question, what do you mean? Why do you have to tell Esav all this? Because Esav said, there's no way you lived with Lavan and you didn't learn from him. There's no way. And he says, I didn't learn from him. And the Rosh Yeshiva tells an amazing story. One of his boys from Denver was marrying the daughter of a Gevir in Baltimore. And now it's time for the wedding. And right before the wedding is starting, the young Chassan walks over to his Rosh Yeshiva. Rosh Yeshiva, I'm about to start my life in marriage. What's the secret so I can have a successful career in marriage? That's how my Rabbi Victor Miller always used to call career in marriage. He called it a career. It is a career. Right? Tell me. So the Rosh Yeshiva looks at him, Taya Bacher. Very simple. Every day, 1 or 2 hours, learn with a chavrusa, do this for 3 years, and you are set. And they're schmoozing. When the father of the kala comes from back, and he says, no, what's the delay? People are waiting. So the Rosh Yeshiva goes over to the Gevir, and he says to him, you know what? Your future son-in-law asked me how to set up his life so that he could have hatzlacha and success in marriage. And I was telling him, the Gevir starts to turn red. He says, what kind of nonsense is the word that he used? An Orthodox Jew, Chmana Tzilan. What kind of nonsense did you just tell my son-in-law? He's getting married tonight. Tomorrow, he comes to the office and he has one goal, to make $1 million. And the Rosh Yeshiva says, Oi, how did such a Yid get so corrupted by America? Im Lavan Garti. How? That he could call Torah nonsense? What does that mean? Let's keep going. I had the pleasure of spending 14 years in this yeshiva, Chaim Berlin. In 1963, Rabbi Yitzchak Hutner is asked to give the speech at the dedication of the yeshiva of Eastern Parkway. He doesn't know what he's going to talk about. He has a question. Why did Reb Chaim Volozhin change the name from Talmidei HaYeshiva to Bnei HaYeshiva? What was that all about? Everyone used to be known as Talmidei HaYeshiva. Suddenly, Reb Chaim said, we're changing to Bnei HaYeshiva. And Reb Yitzchak Hutner is thinking about this. The day before the speech, he gets his answer. He's walking in his high school. He sees a young boy, a smart kid. He says, tell me, Taya Bacher, what's the difference in your relationship with your science teacher versus your Rebbe? Great question. Listen to the answer he gives him. My science teacher, it's like you're in the lunchroom. He shoves food in your face. My Rebbe is like a baby who nurses me. It's like being nursed by a mother. Whoa! What an answer. That's Torah. Your Rebbe is your kesher for life. I deal with shidduchim. And when a girl sits in front of me, and I ask her, does he have a Rebbe? And I hear no, I say run. No Rebbe means no direction. It means no one to tell him what to do. I had a case. A girl came to me from the 5 towns.
My wife's a big shafcha.
Okay, so we talk after.
Made 40.
God Baruch Hashem. Mazel tov. Yeah. So, a girl tells me she married a boy who went to the yeshiva. And she married him on the expectation the guy's going to learn. At least keep starim. So she says he went from 2 hours to an hour and a half, to an hour, to half an hour, to 15 minutes, to B'nai bedroom. Not even davening anymore in shul. She says, I should divorce him? 4 months married. I said, no. Relax. Calm down. Does he have a Rebbe? Yes. Go talk to him. And he fixed him. He corrected him. It's very important to have a Rebbe. And this is what Yitzchak Cohen is teaching us here. B'nai Yeshiva, we're sons of Torah forever. Ever. Let's move on to the Blujever Rebbe. Rabbi Yisrael Spira. This is not such a happy story, but there's a lesson to be taught here. He was in a work camp in Janauska, and it was Hoshana Rabbah. And to make his life miserable, he was a very tall man, the Blujever Rebbe. They made him saw with a short man who was 4'6". So he's over 6 feet, and they're sawing together. But because the other fellow was so short, he was bleeding from all the cuts. And there's screaming going on in the camp. Children screaming. And he asked somebody, what's going on? Oh, today's Action, he says. They collected all the children from nearby, and they're going into the Olam HaEmes. Suddenly, a Jewish woman shouted, Yidden, have Rachmanis on me. Give me a knife. Just give me a second. Give me a knife. So, the Blujever Rebbe walks up to her and he says, Madame, he thinks she wants to kill herself. She says, Madame, it's usher to take your life. You can't take your life. He tells her. What's the difference? We're all going to end up in Olam HaEmes sometime. He tells her. You can't take your life. Suddenly, a German officer, you're not allowed to talk to anybody in the camp. It's Chayiv Misa. Walks up to him, he says, what did you tell her? What's going on here? So he tells him, Sir, she asked me for a knife. I thought she wants to kill herself. I told her, no. She's looking at the officer with eyes to burn. She's looking at him and she sees something sticking out of his pocket. The German officer. She says, is that a knife? He says, yeah. Give it to me now. And the guy's scared. He gives her the knife. No one realized that at her feet was a pillow with a blanket. She picks it up, opens it. It was a baby. She had a baby in the camp. Listen to what happens. She straightens up, looks to Shamayim, takes the knife, makes the bracha, ala mila, and makes the mila for the child. She looks at Shamayim and she says, Rebbeinu Shalom, you gave me a healthy child. I'm giving you back a kosher Jew. She then gave the knife back to the German soldier and the baby. The Blujever Rebbe said, through my tears, I said that this bris shook the foundations of Shamayim and Aretz. Next, Avraham Avinu was getting ready at the Akedah to take Yitzchak's life. Where can you find an act of emunah like this Jewish Yiddish mother demonstrated? And let me just close. Ramesh Shapiro, I know you were in Chachmei Lublin, right, Chaim?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the story. Yeah, okay. And for those who haven't seen, I've been here. This is Yeshiva Chachmei Lublin. Started by Ramesh Shapiro, who is the person who originated the Daf Yomi program. He writes the following. When I was a baby, I remember my mother singing to me, learn Torah, my son, For it's the most important possession in your life. When I was 7 years old, it was Isru Chag Pesach. I came home, 7. My mother was sitting there crying. I said, Mama, what's wrong? And she says, son, a day that passes without Torah study, you can never get it back. Mama, I told her, what happened? I hired a Malamed to teach you. He was supposed to start today, Isru Chag Pesach. I was ready to pay him 300 rubles, an outstanding amount of money for a almana. Where is he? He was a Yarei Shemaim from Sakachov. But 2 days have passed and he hadn't come. And she told him again, do you know, my son, every day that goes by without Torah study is a loss that we can never get back. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? Her eyes were filled with tears. Later that day, the two of Reb Shalom, Zichrono Levracha, came, taught me Torah for 6 years until my bar mitzvah. And every time I went to collect for the Daf Yomi program, he said, I used to always tell the Olam what my mother taught me. A day that passes without Torah study is a day you can never get back. And that's how he got the idea to start the Daf Yomi from his mother. So Rabbi Sai, we saw just a little bit tonight what we have to do, what efforts we have to do when we're raising children, the love that they have, we have to show them the Torah, the multi-sensory, hugging, and making them feel good. I got just a phone call. I'm in Landau's on Friday. I get a phone call from Muncie, a woman who's a Beis Yaakov graduate. She tells me, I have an issue. What's going on? My son went to Yeshiva Spring Valley, good. Shari Torah, good. Tzanchanim and Tzahal. And now he's living with his girlfriend in Muncie. Help me. This is 11 o'clock Friday morning. I said, okay, where is he now? Okay, he's touring Europe a little bit. When he comes back, I'll have a chat with him. But most important, to avoid that, is to listen to what Yitzchak Avinu was an expert at. Multi-sensory. He felt his children. He smelled his children. He tasted